Hello, this is Todd Squall from Fox Motors, here to bring you one of our first installation episodes of tutorials. This first episode is going to be a tutorial regarding the installation of wheels, slamming your car, camber, and epicness. So, without further ado, this is going to be starting off using... Anyways, this is going to be starting off using the Fox Motors Honda S2000. This is the S2000 with the HD interior. If you wanted to look inside, you get quite a good looking interior cabin, full HD textures, as well as, well, epicness. It's clean, and I like it. So, right now, we've got my finished Honda S2000. This is going to be the goal that we're working towards. Now, we're not going to be using these wheels though. These are just my personal choice of what I wanted to use for wheels on this build. What we're going to be using is this guy. I've already taken the liberty of removing the other three tires and as well as the brakes that were originally on this. That's because we won't be needing them in this episode. So, without further ado, let's get started. First thing is, we're going to be delinking and removing this front wheel. Now, we're not going to be completely removing this guy. What it's going to come down to is what we're going to do is we're going to take the aftermarket wheels and we're going to be sizing them up to fit the same size as this bad boy here. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to edit the entire car and we're going to go to edit linked parts. With that, we're going to select this wheel, and you can either do this one of two ways. You can either click D-Link up here, or you can do it the lazy way like I do and press Control-Shift-L. That's going to D-Link that wheel and that single prem. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and link it to a grid. You should actually have snap right here. With that in mind, that'll actually help you line things up, be more accurate and precise with all of your measurements, and as well as the rest of your car builds. Let's see here. There we go, that's what I was looking for. Now, let's see here. Which wheel should I put on this? I'm thinking I want to put on the BBS RS GT style wheels that my buddy had made for me. So let's go ahead and throw those on. See here. There we go. Now, mind you, these are mesh builds. And as you can see, he had already included the brakes on the inside of the mesh build here, so I don't have to worry about anything else regarding that. So as you can see, obviously, this needs to be rotated around, so it's something as simple as just clicking the rotate tool right up here, or pressing Control, holding it down, as well if you wanted to do the Control hotkey style, and just clicking and snapping it on the grid just to bring it around just enough. So, let's bring it on to the next step. We're going to go ahead and snap it to the grid. Get it all lined up along with the stock wheel, and obviously you can tell this is much smaller than the stock wheel. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and stretch it. Just click on the stretch tool and just take it by the corner, because what you want to do is you want to keep it symmetrical and have it stretch all dimensions. Just till the outer tread just covers about that much. Which is pretty accurate. You know, it's bouncing between the original wheel and that wheel, which is pretty much what you want. Now you have the, of course, new hybrid style wheel that we're going to be installing on the car. Just kidding, please don't take me seriously. Now, next step, we're going to go ahead and delete him. He is no longer needed. And we're going to go ahead and line this up onto the car. Just the first wheel. The reason why I do that is because what we're going to be doing here is a little bit different than what you would normally do with a lot of installation of cars. I'm going to go ahead and double check and make sure that under the object tab right here, that the rotation for the y-axis, which is how the wheel turns in this kind of direction, not you know, to me or from me or whatever you know what I mean. What'll end up happening here is that if you script this wheel without making sure that the y-axis here is not at 0, what'll happen is that the wheel will not turn after you script it. Wouldn't that pose a problem? I would personally think so. So, with that said, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go ahead and get the wheel lined up how I'd like it to be, and we're going to do a build where we're going to kind of slam the car. This is a totally optional thing. If you want to do this, you can. If you don't want to do this, of course, you can opt out and, of course, not do it. With that in mind, let's get started. So, we've got everything as far as the wheel size goes. We don't need to get too crazy, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go to my D2 scripts here folder. You'll actually be able to rip these scripts out of each of your tires as you do by Fox Motors vehicles. With this in mind, because these vehicles are modified, you actually are able to take those scripts out, and you're not able to modify them by any means. However, they do offer you a good level of control, like for instance Camber. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring this wheel, press Shift and click on the Move tool, and I'm gonna go ahead and drag it. Mind you, I'm doing this while holding down the Shift key. That way, it'll actually allow me to. It's kind of like alt clicking and dragging if you're moving computer files. It's the same idea. So that wheel looks pretty good, I think so. I'm not gonna mess with how deep that wheel is in that wheel well just quite yet, because the point of this is to go ahead and make this as fast as possible and as cleanly built as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and highlight both cars, or I'm sorry, not both cars, both wheels, by pressing Shift and clicking on each wheel and making sure that only these two are selected. What I'll do from there is I'm going to go ahead, take it by the green arrow, which is of course going to move it left and right along this green line that you see here. Click, Shift, and drag. So now I actually have an extra copy of these wheels over on this side. So I'll just make it easy, rotate these guys around, and bring them in place. Now, of course, these guys are not perfectly centered in the car. In fact, as you'll notice, this tire is actually sticking out of the side of this tire. Slightly is. The reason why I'm not worried about that is because we're also going to be working on fitment in this video as well, so that's not going to be entirely a big priority. At least not right this second. So let's go ahead and bring the S2000 to a height that we're going to want to work with it. Personally, I like fitment. I'm going to be a bit of a whiner here. I'm going to bring this fender just above the rim. The reason why I'm going to do that is because I want slammage, and I want the fitment to look clean, and that is how I'm going to do it. So, without further ado, let's continue. But when I do continue, I'm going to go ahead, stop this video, start recording again, that way everything gets clean again. So, what we're going to be doing here, we're going to go ahead and bring up our inventory and go to the Camber wheel scripts. Now, what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be taking the rear tires first, since they are kind of the easiest to work with. This car is not scripted to drive just quite yet. So with that in mind, we're going to take this wheel here, and we're going to go ahead and get it set up to where things work correctly. First things first, you want to make sure that this object is under the Features tab, Convex Hull. The reason being is because this tire is going to be what's making contact with the road below you. When you have a prim set up to either prim or convex hull, what will happen is it'll recognize it as a solid object. If you were to set it to none, it'll just fall through and your car is literally just going to scrape, and you're pretty much going to ride as low as the body of the car is going to let you, which of course isn't what you want unless you are really silly and you want to make yourself look stupid. And I know some of you guys are really good at that. Just kidding. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and take the grip smoke, because I'm going to make this car rear-wheel drive. Grip smoke. Bam. So what will happen with this script here is that it'll actually let your car spew out smoke particles as you start to lose grip and you're drifting. It's kind of a cool little thing. I'll show you guys a little bit of how that looks. Now, I'm also going to take the rear tire script as well here. This is what's going to control what direction the wheel rotates. Of course, I'm hoping you guys did notice that the rear minus is also available as well. This is because there are also some times where you might build the car with a certain wheel or something, and it actually might spin the other way. This helps correct that issue. Now, I know that these wheels normally don't have that problem, so I'm not going to really worry about it in this video. So let's go ahead and start on this tire over here. Just bring both scripts over. Whoop. course, be sure to select each individual tire before scripting this. Otherwise, you'll be breaking everything and I'll have to yell at you. So, let's just shift click both of these tires and we're going to link them to the car. Bam. Now, these tires are now linked to the car. Wonderful. So, with that in mind, let's go ahead and add some camber to these. Now the rear tires are very easy to do this with, simply because it doesn't take much. They're only built to rotate on that one single direction. The front tires, adding camber to them can be a little bit more tricky. So I'm just going to go with the first notch. That's about 6 degrees of camber. And just because I want to have fitment, I'm going to bring it out just as much as I can before the tire starts to poke through the body. I think that's pretty good. I think that's tasteful. The wheel's not falling off, and it's still dysfunctional. So let's go ahead and do that to this side as well. Bring it over. Bring it out just enough to where there's no rubber sticking out. Like you see that right there? Can't be having that. In. There we go. So now, we've got rear camber in the back of the car. Looking a lot better already. Now the front wheels. This is going to be something a little bit different. This is going to be using the front right, or front left scripts. You'll see these marked as FR and FL for obvious reasons. Now, the way that these work for camber and everything is actually going to be a little bit different. You're going to go to the general tab while you're editing this tire, and you're going to say, I'm going to go ahead and match the rear and put in 6 degrees. So I'm going to put in the description 6 and press enter. What that'll do is that'll go ahead and say, okay, well, when I put in this front left script, it's going to say, okay, you know what? These scripts are designed to look at the description tab and see what degree, if at all, you're going to actually ask for camber. So once I drop in this script, it should go ahead and give me some camber. Oh, would you look at that? It did. How nice. I feel so special. Now, let's go ahead and bring that in just a tad. I might have brought this car a little bit too low. Nah. Okay, I lied maybe a little bit. That, or I could actually cheat and reduce the size of the front tire a little bit, which I think I'm going to do. Just because I do want that nice, aggressive look. And I want this car to be more low. There. That'll work for right now. Alright, we're back. So, I went ahead and resized both front tires as I wanted to. I just kind of wanted to edit that out just because, well, it would take forever. Now, honestly, when it comes to resizing anything, it was just like I showed you. It's just a stretch tool and finicking with the corners as well, making sure that it just fits the way you would like it to. So, of course, for the front right tire, we're going to do the exact same thing. 6 degrees for camber, and we're going to bring in the front right code. Bam. Done. So, let's go ahead and bring that out just a little bit. Bam. We're going to link these two to the rest of the body of the car. And would you look at that? We've added aftermarket wheels. Some very sexy ones if you do ask me. And, with that in mind, the car's got a much better stance. Now, when it comes to adding camber to cars, generally, if you want them to sit right on the ground, you're going to have to edit them. This comes for all any kind of D2 cars that you might end up with in the future. Just because what'll end up happening is the physics of these cars will actually go wherever the tire decides to go. So that'll be its last resting point after you turn the car on and off. Now that you have that, you're stanced, you're happy, and you have two Honda S2000s that look sexy as shit. Enjoy, guys. Have fun.